All right, good morning, everyone. I know most people are watching this as a recording, so welcome. Today's topic is nutrition for better sleep, something that is so important and becoming more of kind of a hot button topic in the field of nutrition, just because it really how we sleep affects so many things. So let's get started. So today's session, I'm going to be going over why sleep is important. Obviously, how much sleep you need, dangers of a bad night's sleep or a poor sleep quality, and how sleep is connected, of course, to nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle changes. So, the question is lack of shut-eye holding you back? So an awful night's sleep makes people cranky. Few people would argue with that statement, right? So when it comes to their own behaviors, many folks aren't so quick to make the connection between, sleep and how they feel. They might just think, oh, I got out of the wrong side of the bed, or I'm cranky, or what's wrong with me today? But a study published by the Journal of Sleep Research found that after sleeping from 2 a.m. to 7 a.m. for 5 days, participants were sleepier, crankier, and less alert compared to when they got 7 to 8 hours a night. And they also experienced fewer positive emotions. So there is a lot of research to show that our mental health is very closely linked with our sleep quality. They can experience people that have shortened sleep can experience pain more sensitively, or an increased risk of depression, anxiety, and then the insomnia can make these problems worse. And then, as we know with nutrition, it can also increase our cravings. So that is not good. So we want to also think about how sleep impacts how we feel just physically in general. So, how we feel influences how we eat, move, and live. So, a person struggling with lack of sleep is most likely going to experience issues in other areas too. And in some cases, poor sleep might even be the root cause for negative behaviors that they want to change. A lot of my patients come to me for nutrition, and it's, I can't stop eating ice cream, or, oh my God, my cravings are so bad for sugar. Or, I love pasta. It might actually just be your sleep quality. So, exhibit A here is how inadequate sleep can lead to a bad mood, which could lead to an argument maybe with a spouse or partner, emotional distress because of it. And then we end up binging on Ben and Jerry's. But also how that, binging on Ben and Jerry's can also lead to inadequate sleep because of the sugar and the content and things. So it's really important to kind of think about our sleep quality and how even our social interactions, sleeping with a partner can also impact our sleep and then subsequently our cravings. So it all really is so truly connected. Amanda and I like to think of ourselves as like health coaches sometimes because, as you know, we do speak about nutrition, but we speak about so many other things and how it all relies back or reconnects back to our health. So chronic insomnia can develop. It can lead to depression, anxiety, or pain, which can then lead to coping with certain things like reducing activity, spending more time in bed, and then that also leads to negative effects of the coping behaviors on our sleep system. So it's a whole vicious cycle that we're trying to help you break. And that's the purpose of today's topic. So just a brief thing about how sleep impacts our hormones and our health. So there's many reasons why sleep is important. For one, sleep helps to restore and repair our body. So during sleep, our bodies produce hormones. You may have heard of things called leptin or ghrelin, and those are hormones that regulate our appetite. Leptin helps us to feel full. Ghrelin signals our body when it's time to eat. So sleep is very key for that. And sleep also helps to reduce inflammation in the body and promote cell growth and regeneration. Another reason sleep is so important is it allowed our brain to rest and recharge. It can help with cognitive function, gives our brain a chance to clean out toxins that can build up during the day. And sleep has also been linked to, increasing or lowering risk of Alzheimer's disease, which is a problem in our patient population because of PTSD. So it really is so important. And getting an adequate amount of sleep has also just been linked to longer, healthier lives free of chronic illness, such as diabetes and heart disease. And then finally, it is important because it helps us maintain our health. It could also help improve, stress and anxiety. So all the reasons why we want to, sleep better. But you're like, okay, Katie, well, I know sleep's important. I get that, but I can't sleep. Help me. So that's also what we're going to be talking about today. So don't worry. Um, But the benefits of a good night's sleep, our cute little puppy, obviously is gonna tell us that, improving our cognition and memory, reducing stress and anxiety, mood, digestion even. And like I said in the previous slides, sleep is important for detox. So you know how in the morning when you wake up and you have like the eye boogies or you have like dried sweat or dried film in your mouth, it's actually our body's way of excreting what we don't need. So it is very, very important. And sometimes people aren't either getting enough sleep or uninterrupted sleep. Um, and then not drinking enough water too before bed can also lead to dehydration and not allow us to detox as much. So just something to think about there. And then, okay, well, what if I'm a shift worker? So it's recommended to build time into your daily schedule and try to keep your sleep as consistent as possible. If you're on permanent nights, try to keep regularity in your sleep patterns, even on off days. If you're working nights, try and keep your sleep so you wake up close to the start of your next shift rather than going to sleep as soon as you get home. So it kind of mimics a wake up out of bed, get ready for the day, even though your day may start at 3 o'clock. Alternatively, you could split your sleep for a few hours when you get home in the morning, like take a little nap and then, do what you got to do and then go back to bed, before you have to wake up later. And then definitely your sleep environment's very key. We're going to be speaking about this later in the session, but a cool, dark bedroom using eye masks, blackout shades, noise machines, 69 or 68 degrees, I think is the recommended temperature to sleep in. Even wearing earplugs or trying a white noise machine or an app, especially if you are a shift worker and, your kids are running around downstairs or your wife works from home or whatever it may be. Keep your phone on silent and you can actually turn settings on that only allow certain numbers to ring. Like my phone's always on silent, but if my, husband or my mother or my, father calls me, it's gonna ring. So you can make sure you don't miss important calls, but you can, snooze everyone like us trying to schedule your appointment. Just kidding. Um, and create a wind down routine. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more as well. So, a little bit about sleep apnea. This is a very common certified condition here with our program. So, losing weight with sleep apnea is known to decrease neck circumference and improve OSA symptoms. But it is harder to lose weight if you have sleep apnea. That's why I put this little sword here. It's a double-edged sword because it is harder to lose the weight if you do have uncontrolled sleep apnea or poor sleep quality. So, but obstructive sleep apnea is the most common form of of sleep apnea. It happens during the sleep, during sleep, the muscles in the body relax. And then it actually relaxes the soft palate, which supports the throat and the tongue. So basically, we have apnea where we stop breathing in the middle of the night and it restricts the blood flow, which can lead to high blood pressure. So it's definitely not great. And then there's also a less common form called central sleep apnea, and it occurs when the brain fails to send proper breathing cues while asleep. It can result from other conditions such as heart failure or stroke. Most of our patients have here this OSA, and it is related to the acid reflux or the rhinosinusitis that most of our patients experience. So, improving neck and waist circumference for sleep improvement. Having added fat storage, especially around the neck, can put pressure on the airway, making it smaller, hard to breathe. This, combined with the natural constriction of the airway during sleep, can increase an individual's chances of developing sleep apnea. And then, in addition, added pressure on the chest wall, it says will, it should say wall, also makes it difficult to breathe, particularly when lying down. So that's why we do care about your waist circumference and your neck circumference. Both of these are important for sleeping better. So you can do this at home. You can get a string or a measuring tape and measure. And I don't have the recommended measurements here, but I believe for men, for your neck, it's around 16-inch collar or less. And then for the waist circumference, the goal is 40 inches or less. So you can do this on yourself. We do also provide these measurements at your nutrition visit if that's something that you wanted to get measured and use as a tool. Sometimes the weight on the scale can be triggering or not as accurate, but the our measurements, like how our clothes fit, our waist circumference, neck circumference, is a big indicator of positive trends. Next up is my favorite little hack for sleep. It's called the 83210 method. And the idea is that we can aim to stop drinking caffeine 8 hours before bed, aim to stop eating 3 hours before bed, Aim to stop drinking 2 hours before bed. Aim to reduce blue light and stress 1 hour before bed. And aim to hit snooze 0 times. So this is a fun little just mnemonic thing to think about, 83210. My hardest one to get is this 0 snoozing. But if you are someone that drinks coffee, after dinner and you like that, maybe switch to decaf. If you're someone who's reading emails or doing any stressful sort of work right before bed, I would definitely avoid that. Blue light is something that can disrupt our circadian rhythm, which we'll speak about later. And it's important to start to shape your environment to let your brain and your body know that it is time to start winding down. It's time to rest. And for nutrition purposes, 3 hours before bed is a good sweet spot, especially if you also have acid reflux. Because 3 hours before bed is kind of a good time so that your body has plenty of time to digest. And if you're someone who is trying to get more water in, I always recommend trying to get all your water in for the day around 2 hours before bed, so that way you're not running to the restroom all throughout the night and interrupting that sleep. So that's a tricky one. So that's something we may need to talk about in a one-on-one session. But in general, this is the guidelines. So circadian rhythm, this is basically our internal clock. We have it on a 24-hour cycle. So your rising time and your sleeping time is kind of natural to you. Ways to boost your circadian rhythm is by doing deep breathing exercises. There's something called the box method that can help calm your mind. Basically, you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you breathe out for 4 seconds, and you repeat. And you could do this for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute, just to reorient yourself. Again, dark, quiet environment. Reading a book is a great way to avoid that blue light. If you're someone who reads on a Kindle, I do recommend like the nighttime mode or getting blue light glasses. You can get them on Amazon. I'm sure you've seen commercials for them. It basically blocks that blue light and causes it to be like an amber type color, which can be helpful for brain signaling and the circadian rhythm. I got an awesome little light clip for my book, so that I can turn all the lights off and just clip it onto the back of my hard copy book. And then when it's time to go to bed, I can just shut it off. Consistent bedtime routine is so, so important. Even for nutrition purposes, it's so important. And we'll talk more about that and tips for that. And then another way to boost your circadian rhythm is actually getting light exposure within 15 minutes of waking. So alternatively, we can improve our sleep quality in the morning, or at night by your morning routine. So if you wake up before the sun and you can't get natural light, you can start to turn your lights on. That's actually when you should be turning on your phone, checking Facebook or whatever, catching up with some funny videos and just kind of start your day. I have a sunrise mimicking alarm clock, actually. It looks like this, and it'll start to rise gradually as the time that I'm supposed to be awake arises. So that's really cool, and it's great in the wintertime if you get that seasonal depression, and you can just mimic the sun. So those are really cool. You can get them on Amazon. I think there's one called Hatch or something, but you could just look up sunlight lamp and it'll come up, or sunrise alarm clock. Um, Some other holistic approaches are to try drinking chamomile tea or sleepy time tea before bed, at least 2 hours before, of course. Using some lavender to create a sense of calm in your bedroom. You could add it to a humidifier. If you have sleep apnea, I recommend getting a humidifier because it can actually help with your from drying out your nasal passages. And if you have sinusitis too, it's good. You can put some essential oils in your humidifier to just create like a good smell in your bedroom. And you also shouldn't light candles anyway at night because it's a fire hazard. So humidifier with essential oils is a great way to do that. You can even add some to your pillow or behind your ears. Lavender is a very calming smell. You could do a warm bath with Epsom salt before bed even. And I would recommend sleeping or speaking to your doctor about potential sleep aids like melatonin. CBD is actually becoming more popular as well. But those are things that are very like dose dependent, and you can become dependent on it and create like a threshold so then it stops working as well. So that's definitely something to talk to your doctor about because they do have potential interactions with drugs that you may be taking. So I always recommend speaking with your physician about that. And then magnesium is a great way to provide a calming mechanism for your body. And most of us don't get much magnesium in our diet, even if we eat well, because it's not really in our food supply. So, magnesium, specifically magnesium bisglycinate, is a common form for sleep improvement, up to 300 milligrams a night. I like to take it right before bed. I take 150 milligrams, but that's something to also speak with your doctor about, or we could talk about it in a one-on-one session. So I don't like making broad statements like this, but everyone's unique in this. But the lavender essential oil isn't going to hurt anyone. Same thing with the Epsom salt, really, for most people, but always double check. And then some other nutritional approaches are thinking about if you're someone who wakes up in the middle of the night randomly, like 1 or 2 a.m., and then you can't fall back asleep. It could be the result of a blood sugar roller coaster that's going on during the night. So making sure you're not drinking a lot of sugar right before bed, like juice, and also having a carb-controlled snack if you have prediabetes or diabetes. So basically, that fat and that protein can help that blood sugar from spiking too much, which can help you sleep throughout the night better. So examples are like a tuna packet, low-fat cheese stick, a hard-boiled egg, maybe some turkey rolled up, or some Greek yogurt with some nuts, a protein shake even right before bed, or beans and legumes, maybe like a hummus or a black bean dip with some chips, just something with a little bit of fat and protein to help you feel full. And then healthy carbs would be things like fruit, whole grains, and veggies. So like a trail mix even with some fruit. I've been doing like pistachios with some dark chocolate and some popcorn, making like my own little trail mix. That's been really tasty at night. Again, aiming for about 3 hours before bed. Greek yogurt too is great. So you guys know the healthy snacks, and you can use the snacking cheat sheet as well if you're familiar with our snacking handout. All right, so when nothing helps, right? It's 3 a.m., you're wide awake, your bedroom is 65 degrees, you're doing your blackout shades, you haven't touched caffeine since 10 a.m., you meditated. If you count one more stupid lamb, you're gonna scream, right? You've done everything right. Why can't you sleep? That's when we need to start thinking about like other possible things that could be going on. I'm not a mental health professional, I'm not a therapist, but there are tools that we do use as dietitians that can help you. So as it turns out, good sleep hygiene isn't always enough. So sleep loss can become a nightmarish loop, as we know, and it's linked to that anxiety. And it can even develop like an anxiety before you go to bed. Am I going to be able to sleep tonight? And then it causes more anxiety, and then you can't sleep. And you kind of deem yourself a bad sleeper now. So, if that resonates with you, you want to definitely look into other tools. There's something called CBT, which we're going to get into now, cognitive behavioral therapy, and it can be helpful for people with insomnia. So, tip number one is train yourself to believe that you can handle less than ideal sleep. I know that this whole presentation I've been saying, if you don't sleep well, you're going to get anxiety, all these things. But if you're someone who's really been trying and it's stressing you out, some common negative thoughts could be, I'll never sleep well again, or I can't work out. I can't think clearly because I'm in a bad mood. I'm so tired, or my sleep's going to cause me to get some terrible illness like heart disease. We don't want to use absolutes like never or always, right? We don't want to predict the future. We can't see things as all or nothing, right? We want to reframe those thoughts and say, I might lose sleep occasionally. Other nights I'll be okay. I'm not feeling my best, but I can do some exercise. The exercise might actually help you sleep better. um, and just find a few moments of joy in your day. And sleep is just one aspect of good health, right? So if you don't sleep well, I can still make some, sure, I'm eating nutritious foods. I'm still drinking enough water. I'm going outside, getting some deep breaths. I'm getting my 15 minutes of sunlight in the morning. I'm stretching, I'm meditating. So it's not all or nothing in terms of that. I know when I used to struggle a lot with sleep anxiety, and my mom, who's a nurse, she told me, even if I'm just laying down with my eyes closed, resting, I'm still going to get that benefit. And maybe we're not hitting REM, but it can be helpful for just creating a sense of calm when we're trying to sleep. Tip number two, continued, is that compassion in particular can activate calming in your nervous system. So imagine all those people just like you staring at the ceiling, send them some imaginary kindness for their suffering and mentally assure them that they'll be okay too, right? Consider a growth mindset about what sleep might look like. Nobody is doomed to be a bad sleeper forever. You may be in a rut right now, but this too shall pass. So, for example, I'm frustrated right now, but I believe in my ability to find solutions. I just have to keep exploring. It sounds a little cheesy, but I mean, we are our thoughts and our thoughts become our actions. So, you want to really try and tap into this positive mindset. So, for example, you probably drift into a light sleep without realizing, ever caught yourself snoozing during a movie. Um, if someone next to you, I'm a bad culprit of this. I fall asleep. My husband's like, "You were sleeping?" I'm like, "No, I wasn't." Your brain will eventually make you sleep. Often it doesn't feel like you slept, but you probably have. And even some nights, if you sleep less, your body will generally fall into a pattern as well. And just trust your body. It's not ideal, but you'll get over it, and it can be a helpful tip if you have tried everything else, like I've said. Um, CBT number 2, this is our biggest one, especially with nutrition, is having a consistent sleep-wake schedule. Oversleeping can reduce your sleep drive. So, sleep drive is our biological hunger for sleep that accumulates while you're awake. So, you only want to spend as much time in bed as you need. Most people need about 7 to 9 hours. Our patients tend to be that 6 to 7 hours just because of your history of lack of sleep in your whole life. But try and stick to a regular sleep wake program, even on weekends when you could lay in bed. And ask yourself if you're an early bird or a night owl. So you can do this if your wake time is around 5:30. The pre-bed ritual should be starting around 8:30 or 9, and then our sleep time is 9:30. If you're a middle of the road person, maybe you wake up around 7:30, then your bedtime should be around 10:30, 11, and trying to be asleep by 11:30. I know that's me. I'm kind of in the middle. And if you're a night owl, maybe you don't have to be at work until later, and you don't wake up or you're retired and you don't, wake up until 10, then maybe your pre-bed ritual is 1:30 a.m. and you go to bed at 2. It really doesn't matter as long as you have a routine. And you just really want to try and pair your nutrition with that too, your eating and your exercise schedule. You just want to see what's most natural for your body. There is no perfect way. There's this culture where if I don't wake up at 5 a.m., then I'm a lazy person. It's not true. And also to help get that 83210, I recommend setting I think I have it on the next slide. Yeah, you can actually, if you have an iPhone, you can actually use the bedtime. It's like a app within your phone that can also remind you of when it's time to go to bed. So this is a screenshot of mine. I try and go to bed by 11 and wake up by 7, so I get my 8 hours. So it actually will alert me at 10:30 to start my wind down routine. It puts my phone on to like sleep mode where I don't get any notifications except for those important, emergency contact people. The color of the screen goes like yellow to block out that blue light. So I put a link here on how to do that. And then I also put a link for other health, like sleep apps that people like to use, like meditation apps. You can track your sleep with like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch or a Ring, but sometimes that stresses people out. So just see what works for you, but definitely use this phone thing because I think a lot of people spend way too much time on their phone right before bed, and it impacts our ability to get that good circadian rhythm that we need. Um, so what about naps and weekends also? Um, so it's recommended to have consistent bedtimes and wake times even on weekends, and it's recommended to not nap for more than 1 hour a day. Science suggests that sweet spot is less than 30 minutes, and that is from a sleep journal. So if your sleep schedule dramatically changes on days off or weekends, you're inherently jet lagging yourself once a week. So when we jet lag ourselves by having a poor sleep routine, it can result in symptoms such as trouble falling asleep, fatigue, mental cloudiness, concentration issues, anxiety, irritability, or even stomach pains. I know my coworker, when she doesn't sleep well, her stomach hurts all day. So these are things that are very real. So don't jet lag yourself. Have routine if you can. And then lastly, CBD tip number 3 is create a safe sleep space. Sleep should be a time when our defenses are down. Many of our patients experience PTSD and nightmares, so that can actually, result in being afraid to fall asleep. And I totally hear that. But it should really be a time where your body is starting to shut down and you feel safe And anything that disturbs the sense of safety can trigger that hypervigilance, right? And constantly being, scanning for potential threats, even if they're not real or imagined. It can conflict with your ability to fall asleep, or even, your partner's ability to fall asleep with you. So I call it, I call my bedroom a Zen den. Um, Really the only two things we should be doing are the two S's in our bedroom, right? Sleeping, and you can imagine what the other one is. We want to create that safe space for ourselves. You shouldn't really be working in bed, eating in bed, watching TV in bed. It really should be for sleep. So I recommend buying soft sheets, installing an alarm system, and improving your locked doors if you're someone who is having that anxiety with hypervigilance. Using a white noise app, declutter your bedroom as well so it does feel peaceful. I know a clean environment is good for your mental health, and maybe plan one thing for the next day to look forward to. Make sure you don't go to bed angry with anybody. If you need to leave a light or TV on downstairs so that intruders know that someone is home, that's a good idea. And then you can always sleep with your big protective dog too. And like I said, avoiding extra time in bed, like scrolling, social media, watching the news, those are just not helpful for trying to wind down. So the Zen Den, I think, is like my number one tip, just personally, that's been very helpful, as well as the routine itself. And that does link back to nutrition, because when people say, well, what time should I stop eating? It really depends on what time you yourself go to bed. So definitely think about that. And then lastly, if you have any questions, let me know. Sleep is a skill. It's not a trait. If you have a good coach, you can get better. So this presentation is by no means a comprehensive guide to solve all your sleep problems. And it's always recommended to follow up with your sleep doctor or your primary care if you do, have any further questions or anything. This was just a topic that was definitely very on the mind for a lot of our patients. So I just wanted to throw it out there this month. Next month, we will be talking about blood sugars and diabetes on November 9th at 2 o'clock. And this presentation will be recorded. And if anybody wants the slides so you can get access to some of those links, I also do have a sleep technique handout as well that is associated with this PowerPoint if you want it. So just send me an email. I think your cameras or your microphones are muted, but if anyone has any questions while have 3 minutes, let me know. Otherwise, feel free to send me a personal message. Yeah, I don't think that the Q&A is activated. So you can type a chat or send me an email. If anyone has any tips they want to share with the group, feel free. I can always pass it along. I hope this session was helpful today, and I hope to see you all soon. Have a great day.